So now let's talk about critiquing. With critiquing, it's something that you really need to understand is there to improve your work. So you might feel a little scared to kind of open your heart and your mind to the fact that people are going to objectively, hopefully, take a look at your work and then really just judge you on it, right? So when you're thinking about it, don't think of it as like ooh, that's judgmental. When you're actually critiquing, you should really look very objectively. So really take a step back and then also think about, putting yourself in their shoes. It's kind of that treat others the way you would like to be treated. And you want to make sure that you give them specific feedback and not like a general, oh, that's good, because then it's kind of like, well, what's good? What is a good about my piece? Because you don't know exactly if you're receiving that type of feedback, whether or not you should keep going with what? Was it the coloring that was good? Was it the drawing that was good? Was it the photo that I took that was really great? So you really want to make sure if you're giving a critique that you're going ahead and you're being very specific about what is actually good. So say for instance, maybe we shoot a video and you really enjoyed the way that the editing was cut, because with the way that that person cut the edit, you really understood what was going on. So you really want to make sure that you kind of give the reason why you really enjoyed it and be very specific about what it was. Or I think I use a squirrel picture and you go, wow, I really appreciate the red that you use for the background. It really does help everything pop as color wise, and it brings my attention directly to the squirrel. And I really appreciate how you thought about that color. So that's something that you can really kind of talk about with like positive critique. You want to see where the person is actually open and saying, oh yes, thank you for that critique. And they know what they're doing good. So maybe they know how they can approach the next project, or even if you're in the same project, how they can double down on what's positive. So then we think about negative critique, right? Or what is perceived to be negative. It's probably not that negative. I think the word is constructive criticism. You see that in every class and all these other different things, but to be constructive is to build things. So you want to build that person up and you want to give them an actual critique that can make that thing better. So in the case of my squirrel, I remember I kind of like scribbled out a font. That's me who made it. And if I were going to give my own critique, I would probably make sure that it's specific. And remember, when you're actually using these vocabulary that you're learning and the principles that you're learning from the design principles, and then also the Gestalt ones, you want to make sure that you can actually say something to that. You go, oh, the arrangement of the poster that you created really does help with that negative space. I really enjoy the negative space around the squirrel because it brings my attention to that focal point there in the middle. But then you go ahead and you might want to say something that is maybe perceived as negative. You can always lead with, I think what could be improved upon is, or even ask a question. You can say something to the point of, why did you choose to use that font? Were you thinking about finding another font that might be more suitable? And if you happen to have another font in your brain, like, I don't know, I'm just gonna put something out there like Times New Roman, you'll be able to go ahead and even give a suggestion to how they can improve their work. So you're kind of giving them a leg up, So for instance, in my squirrel example, I could say something to the point of, I really enjoy the way that you have that vibrant red background. It really brings my eye directly to it. And then you can say something to the point of, if you had something to improve on for that, you would say something like, I think what might be interesting or what could improve this piece is finding another font for this typeface. You said that you wanted it to be old-timey, but have you tried? And then you can list a font like, I don't know, something in my brain is saying Courier, but that's probably not the right font. But you kind of understand what I'm saying. So the main things that you want to take away with a critique is, and please, you want to be able to kind of tell someone that something can be improved. Now, don't make up anything if you don't think that there should be something that can be improved, but you want to make sure that it's very specific and then constructive. And if you can add something to it, you can give a suggestion that can get them to the next level. Something that you would probably want for yourself, that you might have not even thought of. Now, there's another part of critiquing is accepting that critique. I think it's hard, and you might have watched some reality shows or something like that in the past where there's like a panel of judges and they tell you, oh, like you should, wear this next time. And then you can see the person who's the contestant kind of getting in their feelings. Don't get into your feelings when receiving a critique. That's just someone's opinion. You can choose to take it, or you can choose to brush it off and, put it away, especially if you don't agree with it. Now, I would probably encourage you, if you can ask questions back to that person, say something to the point of, I understand that you wanted me to change the font, but what type of font were you thinking? Or do you have any examples of what I can look at to improve my font choice? That's something that you can at least have a dialogue. It's a back and forth. Think about if you're in a team experience or a group work, you just don't say yes to all the decisions. You may just go ahead and say, oh, well, I'm not quite sure if I agree, but if you tell me a little bit more, maybe they can actually, prove their point. Now, this should not be done in an argumentative way. This also should not be a time where you get really defensive. You want to make sure that even if you don't like the critique that you were given, if you've ever seen Bambi Thumper, Thumper's mom always says, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all, right? Or something like that. And you might just ingest it. You might say, thank you very much for the critique. I'll take it into consideration. And even if you simply don't understand the critique, you can always, ask more questions. But if you think it's completely off kilter, or if it's something that is in the wrong direction that you want to go, you can say, thank you very much for the critique. I'll take that into consideration. And that's a really polite way of saying, all right, cool. That's great on you, but I'm going to do my own thing. So, and that's something that you can take with you no matter what, wherever you go. And when you're in a job setting, you may not be able to, argue or your point. You might not be able to kind of push your own agenda because there's like a head honcho boss guy that's going to be in charge and they'll be calling the shots. So in that case, you might say, all right, thank you very much for the critique. And you might actually have to enact that critique because that's what the client wants. So you can't just always off-road and do your own thing. There are places where you're gonna have to go and follow that critique. If the client says they want it blue instead of red, you kind of have to go with it. But those are some things about critiquing. I hope that you enjoyed this talk. If you have any questions about critiquing, you know where to find me.